Hi, this is Ralph Zuranski. I'm speaking with J. Conrad Levinson. He's the best-selling author of Guerilla Marketing, one of the top-selling business marketing series in history, and he has 31 other books to his credit. He sold over 14 million copies of his books worldwide, and his guerrilla concepts have influenced marketing so much that his books appear in 41 languages and are required reading in MBA programs worldwide. Jay taught guerrilla marketing for 10 years at the Extension Division of the University of California in Berkeley. He was a practitioner of it in the United States as a senior vice president at J. Walter Thompson, and in Europe as the creative director of Leo Burnett Advertising. He's written a monthly column for Entrepreneur magazine, articles for Inc. magazine, and online columns published monthly on the Microsoft website. Jay also has written online columns for Netscape, America Online, Hewlett-Packard, and American Express. He is the chairman of Guerrilla Marketing International, a marketing partner of Adobe and Apple. His legendary Guerrilla Marketing series is a series of books, workshops, audios, and videos on CD-ROMs and an internet website. And now he's created the Guerrilla Marketing Association, an interactive marketing support system for small businesses that put you in direct contact with Jay every week. Most of all, guerrilla marketing is a way for business owners to spend less, get more, and achieve substantial profits. And this is the man to transform you into a guerrilla marketer, the father of guerrilla marketing, J. Conrad Levinson. Jay, how are you doing today?
Doing just fine, especially after hearing those glowing words. Thank you, Ralph.
Yeah, so you have an amazing track record. You probably single-handedly changed the world and helped millions of business people get more and do more for less money and less time.
Well, that means I achieved my goal because that's what I was trying to do.
I really appreciate you taking your valuable time to answer the heroes questions, because you're definitely one of my heroes, because you've helped so many small entrepreneurs and just big businesses too to be more successful, and that's what business is all about, being successful. What is your definition of heroism?
I think it's doing what you think would be difficult for you to do, something you were scared to do, but doing it after all and doing it well. I think that's real heroism.
So you think it takes a lot of courage to be a hero?
Not necessarily, but ordinarily, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of interior courage, not the kind you might be able to make a movie out of by seeing someone rushing into a blazing building, but the kind that causes the person to do something that other people said, well, you can't do that, or you've never done that before, and doing it anyhow. I think that's a hero.
What is your perspective on goodness, ethics, and moral behavior?
I think that those are part and parcel of everything I write about in guerrilla marketing, because if you don't practice those things, you're not going to feel good about yourself, and the world isn't going to feel about you. It's something that you probably, if you're doing it right, you don't have to try to be those things and do those things. Those are things that are inherent within you, maybe because of training you received as you were growing up.
What are the principles you're willing to sacrifice your life for?
Gee, there haven't been many sacrifices that I've had to make.
Mm-hmm.
The principles that I've had to sacrifice for really leaving the home where I was brought up, and leaving my family, meaning my mother, father, and sister. When I struck out to leave Chicago and move west to California, those were things I left behind that were of value to me, and yet I left them behind in my own private act of heroism, moving west.
You know, in the world today, there's sort of a question about, the people that actually get paid to put their lives on the line compared to the people that sacrifice their own self-interest to help people in their family that are sick or people in their community that need help. What do you think is that difference between that sacrifice, people that sacrifice their lives and people that do sort of a quiet sacrifice on a daily basis to help others?
I think the ones who do it on a daily basis are the real heroes because of the daily part of it. I met somebody just yesterday, and when I heard what he does every single day, I thought this is not the kind of thing people will write about. It's not the kind of thing he's going to talk about. He's a really American hero because he does it every single day, and he manages to enjoy it.
What was it that he does?
being a caregiver for his mother who he doesn't live with.
Wow.
It just seemed that doing that on a daily basis really did make him a hero.
Yeah.
She was very lucky to have a son like that.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm doing for my mom and dad now.
I know that.
And I can tell you it is beyond anything that you could ever imagine. I remember when I said, oh, yeah, I'll take care of my mom and dad when they need help. And now that I'm doing it, I realize just what a great blessing it can be, but what an incredible challenge it is every day.
And there's so many people who meet that challenge.
Well,
and those are unsung heroes like teachers. Caregivers and teachers do really heroic work on a daily basis, but don't get recognized for it on a daily basis, although people do realize the good that they're doing. Mm-hmm. It's not like their name appears in the paper and Larry King does not interview them on television.
Yeah. You know, everybody has low points in their life, and you know, some people get defeated by having just one low point in their life, but many people have lots of low points. What's one of the lowest points in your life, and how did you change your path to have victory over the obstacles that you're experiencing at that time?
God, I'd say that probably the lowest point was when I thought that I had achieved my lifetime ambition working in Chicago. It was 13 below zero. And I thought, boy, here I am having done everything I wanted to do. However, it's really cold here. I don't think I want to live the rest of my life here. And I thought I was a success, but when I went to my advertising agency and I went to the boss and asked them to transfer me, I was told that was just not possible. And it dawned on me that I was really a slave in a three-piece suit. And I was really a slave, and although I wasn't doing manual labor, I was doing hard labor, and I was doing it in a place not fit for man or beast because of the weather. Mm-hmm. And when I had determined my lifetime ambition, I was 21 years old, I hadn't factored in the weather. But now that I was near 30, and I felt it, and I thought I was a free man. I thought I could do anything. Mm-hmm. So when I asked for that transfer, I thought, of course I've earned it and I can do it. But when I was told that it was impossible to transfer me, I felt at the bottom. I felt, my God, all along I've deluded myself. I've been a slave, but I thought I was just a nicely paid employee at an advertising agency, and I felt very little control over my life because here I was doing what I wanted to do, but I was doing it in the wrong place, and I didn't have the freedom to pick up and move elsewhere.
Wow.
So that was a bad feeling, and I knew also that in order to get out of it, I had to take the kind of action that would risk my career. Mm-hmm. But I had to leave my job, leave my security, leave my income. But I did it because I wanted to feel that sense of freedom all over again.
So was that the dream or vision that you had that set the course of your life, of having the freedom to do what you wanted at any time?
Oh, my God, yes, and I hate to say this, but it happened by accident. That was the step I took that gave me the freedom I had always dreamt about, but my only goal was to get out of Chicago and get to a place with a moderate climate. That was the only thought that I really had. I never knew that once I got to a place that had a more moderate climate, I'd be called to the outside. I'd be called to do hiking and skiing and climbing. And I'd be called to do things that gave me more freedom than I ever had as a working stiff. And I loved my work. I looked forward to work. And I enjoyed the people I worked with and the kind of work I did. But I was still doing it 9 to 5, week in, week out. And once I had moved out west, and once I started availing myself of the beautiful distractions of redwood trees and tide pools and nearby ski slopes and rivers to run, that's when I started really sensing a freedom that I never knew had existed before that. That's when I could flex my freedom wings.
Well, you know, a lot of people have setbacks in their lives and misfortunes and make mistakes. Do you think it's important to take a positive view of the setbacks, misfortunes, and mistakes?
Oh, yes. If you don't, you're sunk. Because I think that everything that happens although it has a negative view, probably, if you look carefully and hard enough, it also has a positive view. And I try always to perceive the positive side of whatever happens. I allow myself to see the negative and feel the pain that causes, but then I start searching for the positive. And positivity, I think, is one of the keys to success in everything.
How much courage does it take to pursue new ideas? I know you hated working in a climate that was just brutal and beat you down physically. How much courage did it take to quit that job and move out to a temperate climate?
It only took courage to make the decision. Once I made the decision, then I knew what I had to do, which was contact people on the West Coast and an opportunity to get a job for myself. And it wasn't really difficult to give notice at a company where I had worked for several years and to tell them I was leaving because I had a justified reason to leave. And they understood.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, a lot of people, when they have to make decisions, they're assailed by fears and doubts. How do you overcome your fears and doubts?
Well, I never allowed any to enter in. I figured that I was a pretty good survivor and that I was a resourceful person and that I could make things work. So I never doubted that I would make it work. And I never really had any fear. It never entered my mind that this wouldn't work. Because I was not aiming high, I was just aiming to get free. I was not aiming to get rich, I was aiming to get free. And I found it not very difficult to achieve those goals.
You know, in people's lives, there's a lot of people that upset, offend, and oppose us. Do you think that it's important to readily forgive those that do that?
Oh, yes. Lots of times when they oppose you, they're in a state of fear. Sometimes it's fear for themselves, sometimes it's fear for you because they like you. I didn't have too much of that, but I definitely did have to overcome those feelings on the parts of some family members.
Yeah. Do you experience service to others as a source of joy?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yes, that's one of the big ways that I get off on everything that I do.
Why are heroes so important in the lives of young people?
Because when they're growing up, they get to meet a certain kind of heroes in their mother and then their father. They get to meet heroes in other family members. Then they are blessed enough to meet heroes at their school, mainly in the form of teachers. And so that's just a limited number of heroes. Their teachers, their parents, some of their friends or some of their coaches. It isn't, in some people, it's their clergy, the church that they attend. But those are not the kind of heroes that they end up really aspiring to be like, although everybody aspires to be like a beloved family member. It's when they get old enough to start paying attention to the media, radio, television, magazines, newspapers, movies, and other friends, and reading the newspapers what other people do. And then they realize that the world has a lot of heroes, and it's not just their parents, and it's not just their teachers, and there are people who they can aspire to be who are different than they knew about as kids. Mm-hmm. And I think that they learn a lot about those heroes just by opening their eyes and realizing what's happening in the world around them.
You know, I spent about 3 years going to all the internet marketing conferences, taking the photos and running the computers for the speakers. How does it feel to be recognized as one of the heroes I met at the internet conferences?
I'll tell you, Ralph, it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling, not just to be recognized as such, but to be recognized by somebody like you, because it's who recognizes you means a lot in the feel of gratification that you're going to feel. And the fact that a person of your quality felt that way about me, that was really the frosting on my cake.
Why do you think you were selected to be an internet hero?
I think only probably because I wasn't afraid to write, and I wrote a lot of books, and I wasn't afraid to speak, because when I speak, I feel so much passion about my topic that I have no time to be nervous about myself. And I think that just the fact that I conquered one of the greatest fears in America, the fear of public speaking, and another of the fears of starting a book, knowing you've got to finish it, time to a deadline. The fact that I did that, I think, meant something to a number of people. That's why they started identifying me as a hero. just as I used to identify authors or speakers as heroes.
Do you feel that that's probably the fastest way to becoming recognized as a hero and being incredibly successful in society, is being an author and a speaker both?
Well, I think those go hand in hand. It seems that if you're an author and you feel you've got to put something down and you've got to tell people something, that's the first part. And if you've done that, you've done a good job, then the rest of the world recognizes that they want to hear what you're saying and they invite you to be a speaker. That was something that was never part of my plan at any point, but that was something that eventually evolved, and I had never done public speaking, but I just grew into it in a hurry because I had to, and those things happened to end up with what seems to be hero status, but that was certainly not a plan.
You know, most people look at public speaking, they'd rather be dead than have to get up in front of an audience and speak to people. How are you able to change that fear of speaking and become so successful as a speaker?
It happened when I gave my first talk ever. There were 100 people in the auditorium, which was every seat. And I was at the front stage with my new book, the book called Earning Money Without a Job. And I was delighted that the audience was filled, and I was delighted I was going to be giving my first talk. And then the person introduced me. And when the person introduced me, the audience applauded. And then the audience and the introducer sat, looked at me, and waited for me to speak, and the room fell into a hushed silence. And that's the first time it ever dawned on me, my God, if I don't talk, nobody's going to talk. They've hired me to come out and talk, so I better speak. And that's when I just started talking because I had to, and I didn't really have notes, and I wasn't positive of what I was going to say, but I felt intense passion for my topic, because my topic was how to get free, how to earn money without a job, not without working, but without a job. And I knew I had information of value to tell and share with those other people. And when it went from the silence of the room with the 100 people in the audience, that moment of silence was a real teaching point and turning point for me, because once I started speaking, then I knew I could do it, and I knew I could give my whole message, and I knew these people really cared about what I had to say, because they were listening and they were taking notes, and I think that was a real breakthrough moment for me.
So you feel it's important to follow your passion in life, that would bring you the greatest joy?
Oh, I certainly do. I think that's rare. It's too bad it's not mandatory, but I think that that's what it's all about. You ask yourself this question: if I had all the money I would ever need, what would I do with my time? And that goal then is not only to know that, but then to do that thing. And if you do that thing that you would do if you didn't need the money, then it's interesting how the money will find a way to come up and start filling the emptiness in your life.
Mm-hmm. Well, how will being recognized as an Internet hero change your life?
It's just that it were things that I used to have to work for before, such as getting invitations to make presentations, would come to me. Clients who I'd have to go for before by writing them letters and ask them to have a conversation or a consultation with me, those things would start coming to me. People would call me. I would not have to go after them. That was the first sign to me that I must have been becoming a hero, because these people were asking me rather than the other way around.
Uh-huh. Well, how are you personally making the world a better place?
By giving people access to freedom, by first of all encouraging them to work on their own if they don't like the job, by encouraging them to stay with their job if they like it, because there's sure nothing wrong with jobs and lots that are right with jobs, and I loved the jobs that I had. But 80% of Americans aren't really happy with the job they have, and I knew about those people. There was also a recession going on when I wrote my first book, and I felt horrible reading the newspapers and the numbers I read. 200,000 people were laid off, 300,000 people were laid off, and I thought, God, each one of those people probably has a spouse and kids, and so when they say 200,000 people, they're probably meaning 600,000 people. And it was like reading war casualties, to read the casualties of an ugly economy, and reading about how many people were laid off. I felt so badly for them and their families. And I thought, these people don't realize there's something other than a job, because they spend all their time lined up at the employment office trying to get the same kind of job someplace else. Mm. And that's when I thought I would reach out to those people and let them know that, hey, there's another way. You don't really need a standard 9-to-5 job, and I'm doing it. And when I found that I was able to do it myself, that's when I realized anybody could do it, because there was nothing really special about me. So that's when I started writing books, to give people that same kind of access to freedom, access to security, and access to financial independence. And that was my motivating factor. I never once, ever thought of making money writing a book. I didn't write my book with any idea of making money. I wrote it with the idea of putting forth the message to people who really needed to hear that message.
So you really feel that the only real security that somebody can have is being self-employed?
I don't know if that's the only real security, but it's the security that gives you the most freedom.
What do you think about the In Search of Heroes program and its impact on youth, parents, and business people?
I think it's so valuable, Ralph, because it's not one of the things that's covered in the curriculum of the educational facilities of the world. It's not something that's covered by all the parents and aunts and uncles and grandparents who talk to kids. It's something that's very important, but it takes very special people to single out that message and to single out the people who need to hear it. And I think that's what makes it unique and very important, because you and your program are one of the only sources that exist on Earth that show people that role models are all over the place. All you've got to do is look. And your father may be a role model, your mother may be a role model, and people who you don't read about in the newspapers, lots of those also could be role models to you. There are a lot of heroes out there, and they don't all wear ribbons and badges and uniforms.
And that's very true. Well, what are the things parents can do that will help their children realize they too can be heroes and make a positive impact on the lives of others?
I think by exposing them to the lives of other heroes, by letting them know that all of those heroes started out as young kids who didn't really know what the heck they were going to do, which way is up. And I think if parents could point to the other people, just like the kids, who rose above whatever their circumstances were and found their dreams and then pursued their dream, I think that's the best they can do. And the best, of course, even more important than that, is to constantly encourage their children to be who they are, not to change them, but encourage them to be who they are, and then along the way to point out other heroes.
You know, that's really the truth of the issue, isn't it? Encouraging people and helping to guide young people compared to being your kids' buddies.
That's exactly right. You've got to be their buddies, that's nice. You've also got to love them, which is crucial. You've got to know when to set limits, which is one of the most important and difficult things for parents, which you've also got to expose them to the kind of people you'd like them to be, just so they see what other heroes are like, because it may not be what they've been reading in their comic books or seeing on television.
You know, out of the heroes that I've talked to, all really believe that mentors are crucial in the development of kids. Where do you think the best mentors are located?
They may be located in your family, but they're probably located in something that's connected with your first employment. At least that's where I found mine. My first boss was a mentor to me. My second boss was also a mentor to me. I felt very blessed to work in companies where I had people I respected enough that I would single them out and ask them questions and just sit at their feet and hang on their answers. And I think in the employment part of my life, that's where I found my mentors.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jay, I really appreciate your valuable time, and I appreciate you answering the questions. And is there a parting piece of information you'd like to leave with the young people listening to this call?
Yes, there sure is. I think that people think that growing up happy and growing up heroic is something that happens because of luck or with hard work. And I'm here to say that there's only two things that you've got to do to make those kinds of dreams come true, and they're very simple things. The first thing is to have a plan for yourself. You've got to have some sort of a plan for yourself. And secondly, you've got to commit to that plan. Now, most people don't have plans, and those who have plans, very few have what it takes to commit to that plan no matter what. But I think if you have a plan, you commit to it no matter what, then you'll never accept failure, because you'll realize that failure isn't really failing. It means it just gives you an opportunity to start again. People don't fit. The people don't fail. They just fall down and forget that they can get up again, and they quit trying. And when you quit trying, that's when I predict dire circumstances for your life. But as long as you keep trying, that proves your commitment. And if you've got the commitment, I believe you'll make your dreams come true, and you'll become somebody else's hero.
Well, that's really profound. I really appreciate your time, Jay. And again, just thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to bring these aspects out. And all the people that you're talking to, Ralph, you're doing a yeoman's job and a very valuable job for everybody on the planet. And I, for one, am very grateful to be part of it. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, you're very welcome, Jay. Thanks again.
We'll be talking up ahead.
Okay. Have a good day.
So long, Ralph.